Hi, I'm John Byrne with Poets and Quants. We're back again. Friday with Sandy's on the menu. Sandy Kreisberg, HBS guru, and we have a great candidate in Texas who actually is there the past year. He's been spending a lot of time in Silicon Valley before that. He's worked for 5 different startups, including 2 unicorns. And he hasn't yet taken a standardized test, but he graduated from Notre Dame with a 3.8 in computer programming and poli-sci. And I think he's aiming to take the at-home test and trying to get a few apps in right now and possibly waiting into round 1 of this year. So Sandy, what do you say?
Okay, what we got here is, a very attractive candidate. He'd be a real contributor to a classroom setting. That's one thing the admissions office thinks of. But what we got is a 28-year-old with a 3.8 GPA who's worked. This is John. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. Yeah.
Well, we'll do a Q&A. Tell me quickly what you've done since you graduated in Notre Dame in 2014.
Sure. Yeah. So pleasure. Thanks for bringing me on here. Pleasure to everyone watching. So I graduated from Notre Dame in 2014. Like you said, degrees poli-sci and a supplementary major in computer application programming. I landed in the Valley in the final rounds of some job interviews, but
push this, move this along here. We got a lot to get through.
Yeah. No, I got it. So I've done a number of different jobs in varying capacities and functions.
No, you've had 6 jobs.
Yes.
For companies. Just name the companies and briefly tell me what they did.
Sure. Some of the companies.
All of them. What is Zora?
Zora is an enterprise software company. They do.
How long were you there?
I was there about 5 months.
What's Spreecast? That was the next job.
Pretty quick stint. I then moved on to a consumer startup called Spreecast, like an interactive video broadcasting tool with a impressive founder.
Okay. Then you went to Flexport. What was that? What was that? This is all in the Valley, right?
Yes. Then I went to Flexport. Flexport is a modern freight forwarder, all online, taking something that's archaic and brought it to the web.
Okay, then you went to a place I love called MindTickle.
MindTickle.
Yeah.
Yeah, MindTickle. It's a sales enablement software. I think with an ultimate vision of enabling all employees, whether that's remote and frontline employees to.
But your roles at these
reps.
Companies were in sales, right? So you're a sales guy.
So in varying sales capacities, at MindTickle was different. That was a friend. I actually moved to the Valley and lived in a bunk bed place for a couple months, a hacker house. And I met these guys when they were raising funding. They said, hey, we need help on the ground in our US team. They're based in India. It was post-sales consulting, so making sure their implementations went on and they saw value in the platform.
Okay. And then you went to a firm called, from MindTickle, you went to Ethos Life. Boy, that's something. That's going from the tickle to the ethos.
Yeah. That was an interesting transition. Ethos Life, I actually met some friends or got in touch with some friends who were out of the GSB. They were starting a life insurance startup. I personally resonated with this a lot. My family, my dad passed when I was younger. We were able to stay in our town because of life insurance. And I think they had a very noble vision and they continue to build that today.
Okay. And then after Ethos Life, your current job is at Bird Eye, not Bird's Eye, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Bird Eye, another early mid-stage startup, enterprise startup, right? Marketing tech. I am on the sales side. Again, here, I just had an itch to get out of the Valley and, number of reasons, but it's been a good transition to Texas.
Okay.
Well, obviously, the hiccup here, there are 2 hiccups.
How are you going to explain that?
Explain what? I mean, there's a lot to explain here. You're right.
How come you kept moving?
Look, we could go into the transitions, and time is very valuable. There's a little story for each, but for one, initially following a mentor, someone I really admired, someone who I want to be like. A GSB guy who dropped out, started StubHub, and we stay in touch to this day. I send him VC deals. Other than that, I had one of the bigger goals landing in the Valley with my suitcase and duffel bag, bunk beds, was to be in an early stage startup and see what it's like. What's this culture like? What is the Valley all about? And I really got that through all these experiences. All these companies have grown. They've
Okay, who can write your recommendations?
Yeah, great question. So, well, if we're talking round 3, the timing is a bit suspect. Might have a week or 2. So I've asked 2 recommenders, both of whom I really trust, a current manager and a past director. That's what I have right now. I mean,
yeah, that works.
Yeah.
Are these guys like, do they seem reputable, mature, experienced guys by their
Yeah.
title and resume?
So yes, my current manager, he interesting guy. He just graduated from Columbia a few years back. This is for something else, but he has a good story. The other is a director. He went to Berkeley himself. He's a big time Silicon Valley kind of salesperson as an individual contributor and team leader, and he's now lives on a ranch in Texas.
How are you going to sell yourself?
Yeah. So that's what I've been trying to figure out. If you saw my logs in my journal of how to make this work, you'd love it. But basically, I have this generalist background. I've done a bunch of different things in varying capacities, and at its surface, let
me get this real clear.
Sure.
How many of your 6 jobs were sales jobs?
4 of them.
Yeah, so you've got to present yourself in a real simple way. I've had intense sales experience with impactful, fast-growing startups in the tech area.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I completely know. And granted, some of these were, they were sales focused, business development focused, but I've also
don't close enough for government work, friend. No, you're not upon oath. You should be truthful, but you're not upon oath in an application.
Yeah,
fair enough. What I'm saying.
Yeah, and one of the things, some advice I've been given is that being as honest as possible and really ends up.
That's not my advice. Don't be as honest as possible.
Okay, all right.
This is really important. Okay.
Yeah, it is.
My advice is be honest enough, but add some spin to it. Add some color. Add some emphasis.
Okay, I can do that.
Real important.
Yes, agreed.
It's critical.
Yeah.
I mean, basically, you've got 2 hurdles to getting into a good school. The first hurdle is you need a GMAT or GRE score, which you don't yet have.
Right.
And that will tell us a lot about, the kinds of schools that you might be able to get into.
Sure.
If you really want to get into Stanford, and I see that that's really your dream, you're going to pretty much have to get at least a 730 and really get your story down clean and straight and clear.
Sure.
I mean, and then the second issue is, of course, working for 6 companies in 5 years. So, I think that the best example you have of moving is to follow a mentor, and a mentor, no less, who was a Stanford dropout who founded StubHub. That only explains.
Yeah, that's great advice, John.
That only explains one move, however. So what you need to really do is talk about your appetite and your thirst for.
Tell them that your mentor suggested other moves, even though it wasn't with him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Say your mentor suggested these moves because they were all opportunistic in a good way and impactful and interesting and exciting. And and he is a fast-moving, rah-rah guy in the best Silicon Valley way. And he was, creating you in his image. That's a fine story.
Yeah. And you might say why you admire him as well. Give a little detail about him.
Yeah, I can absolutely do that.
Yeah, all right.
So what are you thinking about Stanford and Wharton, Sandy?
Not going to happen. Sorry, that's my view.
Fine.
Now
Your
you might,
best-
you throw a
your-
Hail
your
Mary
Hail
pass,
Mary.
okay?
Your Hail Mary school is Kellogg, where they're a little more open-minded, they're a little more sales-oriented, and they're they're very selective, but they're not as selective as Stanford.
So you have Kellogg and Booth on here. Now, both these schools have extended deadlines due to the pandemic.
Right.
So you have until June 1 at Kellogg and May 31st at Chicago Booth. You want to get in there before then, and you want to get in now. Don't wait for round one next year.
Really? So that's what I
Okay.
was saying. These are deadlines that are realistic, it seems. End of May, I can pull together and potentially, hopefully an over median test score.
Yeah, let me take that back. Let's do it with the basics here. You've got a 3.8 from Notre Dame, which is real solid.
Really good.
If you could get a 730 GMAT, and then the only thing unusual about you is the 6 jobs. And
Yeah.
let's not kid ourselves. That's mighty unusual. But they'd be willing to go with it, particularly with the strong stats. You see, they rely on that as being evidence of a lot of things, including the ability to sit still and eat stuff and spit it back, which is what they're really looking for.
The other thing is Kellogg and Booth are going to go for a guy who's worked in Silicon Valley.
Yeah, right.
That's going to add a lot to their school.
I just don't. Stanford, I could be wrong. You're a white male at Stanford. They're not. They don't like unusual things, dear.
Interesting.
Yeah, and you could decide you apply to Chicago and you apply to Kellogg now. You don't get in, or you get in and you don't really want to go, then maybe you go try for Stanford in round one. Here's the problem with the next admission cycle.
Yeah.
The recession is coming. Applications are going to surge, number one.
I see that, yeah.
Secondly, a lot of internationals are not going to be able to come for the fall semester after having been admitted. They're going to be deferred. So a certain percentage of the class seats are going to be occupied, maybe as much as 20% of all the class seats. So you don't want to go in to the tsunami of applications and deferrals, especially you want to go now.
Yeah, I mean, I do want to go now. I'm ready to go, but if I need time to build my resume and to solidify an over-median score.
Your resume is as built as it's going to be.
You're not going to unravel or undo anything you've done.
Let's get that real clear.
Yeah.
Even if I'm promoted again, I've been promoted once, and I get promoted again. Would that trivial? All right, interesting. Okay.
Do you agree, John?
Yeah, it's just
people get promoted. So flipping what?
And you've got enough work experience. You're going to have 5 years of work experience. Plenty. You don't want to wait any longer.
They're admitting you as a slight wild card, as a guy who can really contribute to the class environment based on the fact you've worked for a lot of, very interesting, exciting Silicon Valley companies, and you've done a lot of stuff. And if you, behind all that excitement, you've got 2 aces in the hole. One is a 3.8 from Notre Dame, and the other is like a 730 GMAT.
Yeah.
Then you become attractive. That's the way the school would look at it.
Yeah.
And on some level, you kind of qualify as a STEM person because you had a double major in computer applications and programming.
Right.
Wow, good point. Good point.
And with a 3.8 with that as a major as well, that says something, because that's not
okay. So let's try and wrap this up with a bow. If they said if you were interviewed at one of your target schools and they said what job do you want after you graduate here, what would you say?
I think there's a few options. One, I'd continue some sort of customer-facing sales path with an organization, traditional BD or corp dev at a startup, maybe a bigger company.
Okay.
I think the other route is having the validation from a top-tier MBA to be like, this kid's polished now. He can raise money from good investors. There's enough capital out there.
What's his answer, John? What's the answer? What job does he want after he graduates from Stanford Business School?
he wants to be his mentor. You want to draw a
Yes.
line from the changes that you made following your
Yeah.
mentor to him being your role model, and you want to be him. You want to recreate his life
Yeah.
in your vision with your values and your soul.
And one more
you
thing.
you want to join an exciting VC company.
Yeah, and being a VC too, right? I in some ways I've played VC with my jobs. You know, I've picked some winners, I've picked unicorns at the seed and Series A stage, and yeah, they've turned out. And one more thing, my last startup, it was a top tier VC backed company. We worked out of an apartment. We had 7 people. We scaled to a Series B.
Yeah, so that's the way you
They're all
got to capture
GSB
that.
founders.
So you have to capture those 6 jobs as being part of that experience.
Yeah.
I was dealing with small startups where I could wear a lot of hats, and the 2
Yeah.
focuses were sales and helping them raise money.
That's
sales.
Yeah.
And present yourself that way, and then the 6 jobs don't seem so strange. And then if you back that up with a 3.8 and a solid GMAT, you're not as crazy as you might look at first glance there.
Are you going to do the GRE or the GMAT?
I have both books. I think the GRE might play a bit more to my strengths with some.
Go with the GRE.
Focus
The
on
GRE
language,
already
but,
has the at-home test.
right.
You need
that's
to
true.
go and register for the test now because there are long delays to take it. So register
Thank you.
for the
Noted.
test to give yourself enough time to study. Apply without a test score. And
Okay.
then tell them when you're going to take the test, and then you submit your test score afterward.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay?
So it
Okay,
sounds like they're
John.
taking it till June, May or June. So it gives me some time. I'll be here in shelter at least another month. So
Yeah, of course. Good time to study.
that's what I'm saying. No more commuting.
No more watching TV, okay? No binge watching.
No, sir. No,
Turn
sir.
off Tiger King.
Oh my gosh. Everyone's raving about it. I have not seen it yet. I need to. Maybe I shouldn't. I don't know.
All right. Well, John, good luck to you. Do
Appreciate
get
it, John.
Chicago, Booth, and Kellogg out the door.
Let's do it. I appreciate your time. Thanks, guys.
Okay. Adios.
All right. Sandy,
Adios.
thank you in Boston, John in Texas, me in the Bay Area in California. This is John Byrne, Poets and Quants. You've been watching Friday with Sandy.